In 2012, a man in New York admitted to a crime he hadn't committed. Not because there was proof, not because he was guilty, not because anyone caught him in the act. He confessed. And that confession changed everything. This isn't a story about guilt. It's about pressure. The pressure the human mind can't always resist. It's about the strange ways our instincts, reasoning, and fears collide under scrutiny, and how that collision can make someone say the words no one thought they would. Psychologists call it coerced false confession. It sounds paradoxical. Why would anyone admit to a crime they didn't commit? The answer begins with the human mind itself. Under stress, the mind seeks a single, simple escape. It hunts for relief. Even if relief means telling a lie so large, it destroys your freedom. Consider a man in a small interrogation room. Lights harsh overhead, walls pressing in though they're flat. An investigator sits across the table, calm but insistent. Questions are repeated, answers are doubted. Every pause feels like a trap. The mind begins to shrink. Options narrow. Certainty slips. It isn't just fear of punishment. It isn't the threat of jail. It's the psychological weight of suggestion. You were there, weren't you? You must have seen it happen. You said earlier, are you sure you remember correctly? Every carefully chosen phrase erodes confidence. Every insistence suggests inevitability. Humans want to be cooperative. We want to be rational. We want to escape conflict. The interrogator knows this, and they use it, step by step, minute by minute, pushing the mind to the edge of certainty, then just a little further. The subject begins to doubt themselves. I must have done something. I can't be wrong. Maybe I misremembered. Notice the subtle change. The mind is creating a version of reality to survive the pressure, not because it's true, because it's easier than resisting. False confessions aren't sudden. They don't erupt like a crime on camera. They creep in like smoke, invisible, unnoticed, until the moment the suspect leans forward and says the words, "I did it." And in that single sentence, the world changes. Why do intelligent people fall prey? Because intelligence isn't immunity. Because self-awareness can become a weapon against itself. Because the mind under stress starts trusting authority over intuition. We want to be seen as truthful. We want to stop the interrogation. We want relief, even if it costs everything. The classic scenario plays out in dozens of cases. Teenagers, professionals, even seasoned adults confessing under the weight of hours of questioning. Some confess to escape. Some confess because they start believing they did it. Some confess because staying silent feels impossible. The result is always the same. An innocent person becomes guilty in the eyes of the law. And it doesn't take violent threats. It doesn't take physical coercion. It doesn't even take lies from investigators. All it takes is the subtle erosion of certainty. Repeating questions, highlighting inconsistencies, framing small doubts as evidence, until the mind surrenders. What's terrifying is how rational it feels to the confessor. They aren't coerced in the traditional sense. They aren't threatened with force. They are simply convinced that admitting guilt is the path to survival. And when that confession comes, the law accepts it. The jury accepts it. The evidence, thin or non-existent, seems irrelevant. Cases like this expose a hidden truth. The mind under pressure is malleable. Certainty can be stolen. Memory can be rewritten. Innocence
can be overridden by fear, fatigue, and suggestion. And the person who confessed walks out changed forever. Now let's explore the techniques used in these interrogations, the psychology behind why compliance feels rational, and the shocking stories of people who spent years proving they never committed the crimes they admitted to in those silent, pressured rooms. Because understanding this isn't just about law, it's about the fragility of the human mind and the spaces between doubt and survival where justice itself becomes vulnerable.
Hours turn into days. The interrogation continues. The room feels smaller, though it hasn't changed. Questions repeat. Pauses stretch. The suspect begins to forget the line between memory and suggestion. Investigators don't just ask what happened, they ask how you felt, why you hesitated, what you remembered differently now. Each question seems innocent. Each answer chips away certainty. Psychologists call this internalized coercion. The suspect isn't just reacting to the interrogator, they're reacting to themselves under pressure. Self-doubt becomes the weapon. Compliance feels like reasoning. Admission feels like survival. Some confessions happen silently. Some happen when the suspect is tired, hungry, drained. Some happen when they are convinced that their own memory has betrayed them. All happen because the mind seeks closure under stress. There are cases where suspects recount details they never experienced. Memories merge with suggestions, with hypotheticals, with the tone of authority in the room. By the time the statement is signed, the person believes it may be true, or at least it feels safer to believe it than to keep resisting. Some of these individuals spend months, even years, fighting the confession in court. Appeals, evidence reviews, witness interviews. But the law moves slowly. The world moves slowly. Meanwhile, the psychological damage is already done. False confessions expose an unsettling human truth. We aren't always rational. We aren't always capable of resisting pressure. Even the most intelligent, self-aware person can be manipulated when their mind, body, and perception are tested. Consider a woman interrogated for hours about a theft she did not commit. By the end, she says the words she never should have. "I took it." She believes it, or she believes she has no choice. Either way, the law sees guilt. The interrogator doesn't need lies. They don't need force. They simply guide the mind to surrender. Silence, repetition, small pressures, the subtle suggestion that denial is harder than compliance, step by step, until the confession is earned. This is why psychological crime is invisible. It leaves no bruises, no weapon, no clear moment of wrongdoing. It is a crime of the mind, committed through patience, calm authority, and subtle manipulation. And yet, understanding these confessions offers a lesson. It shows how human psychology can be exploited, how trust, doubt, and fatigue become tools in the wrong hands. Cases that make headlines often focus on the confession itself. Rarely do they highlight the silent hours, the repeated questions, the internal collapse of certainty. That's the part no one sees. For investigators, lawyers, and ordinary people, there is a crucial takeaway. Pressure does not equal truth. Compliance does not equal guilt. And human testimony, no matter how confident, is fragile under stress. Some suspects are exonerated. Some spend decades proving their innocence. But the story leaves a mark. It teaches us about how the mind works under pressure and how our own reasoning can be used against us. The tragedy isn't just legal, it's human. A person's life can change in minutes, hours, days because of the silent erosion of certainty. So why do innocent people confess to crimes? Not because they are weak, not because they want to deceive, not because they are guilty, because the mind, when trapped in isolation, doubt, and persistent authority, seeks resolution over truth. And sometimes survival comes at the cost of innocence. The lesson is stark. Systems, authorities, and even ourselves must respect the fragility of perception. We must recognize how fear, doubt, and fatigue become tools in the wrong hands. Because until we understand that, the next confession might not be false, it might be the next innocent person surrendering to silence. And the world will record it as guilt.